Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm going to apologize in advance just in case Zuko, the African gray parrot, decides that he wants to do a bunch of chirping today, because I have no idea. Sometimes he gets a little bit chirpy. So I'm just forging ahead with storyboarding. And I don't really remember kind of sort of where we left off. We had the, let's see here. King, this is all montage with a narration over top of it. I think we saw Golek bring the king some medicine, and uh-oh, he's not a nice guy. This was the vigil. I probably should have done a little more homework here and figured out exactly where I left off. Let's just start here. So, made quite a bit of progress actually since my last video. The king more or less anoints the older brother, and Golek crowns him. So there he is. But we see that behind the king, the new young king, Mr. Golek is still plotting and scheming. And we have a flash transition to the doorway of the throne room, if you will. The guards are all aware. This is Asher, the holy man, who crosses the screen and approaches the throne. The king shows respect. Golek is more tentative. And Asher has something that he wants to say. But Golek kind of treats Asher with a bit of disrespect. He's quickly corrected by the king. So the king's got a fundamental respect for the local holy man, and he's important to their community because of the way he feeds the poor and does other good things. So Golek makes his apology. This shot actually I don't think belongs in there. And Asher simply says that treachery is always paid in full. That's all. Leaves those guys kind of wondering what the heck was that all about. He taps his stick, turns. So probably we should clarify here, because this actually, just glancing at it, looks like a it really looks like he's holding the stick in his right hand and he has turned around, and that is not actually the case. Whoops. So let's get a little more clear here about what's going on with his costuming and whatnot. So Asher, I will say, by the way, it appears to me that maybe for some stupid reason I've lost my pressure sensitivity. That might be my own fault. Yeah, pressure's on. For our purposes, it doesn't matter, actually. So I just want to go back here and double check his costuming. Oh, yeah. So, yep, so this is just to sort of clarify that we're looking at the front of the guy. That looks pretty good. Okay, so he's sort of got a hooded thing going on. Let's delineate his. Just trying to see if it really is. Let's see, gentle, hard. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Sorry. So yeah, the pressure sensitivity does seem to have decided to turn off for no apparent reason. But like I said, that really doesn't matter. Doesn't keep us from getting our work done. So okay, so Asher, he basically does this dramatic tap on the floor, then wheels around, and he's getting back out. Okay. So he's got his staff in hand, which he does have in his left hand. And we'll kind of draw his cap to, again, sort of show. that now we're looking at the back of the man. Okay, cool. Forging ahead. Now here's where I kind of did what I was talking about in the last video, where I didn't fully draw these guys, just because I've drawn them enough times now that I know I'm feeling pretty confident that I'll be able to nail them. So Vespigi says, what does this mean? Superstitious babbling, my lord, nothing more. Valner, the king, is not quite sure what to think. And the narration says that soon a terrible drought and famine struck the land. This is not probably my best drawing ever, but it's to show people out working in the fields. And what sucks about it is basically the ground. You know, the ground should be. We want to, and I'm gonna play with that and probably get some reference from actual photographs for, you know, what does the parched clay look like, you know, how to draw that. So this is actually a montage where we see Vespigi complaining about Asher putting a curse on the land. And what's going to happen is you can see from the arrows that the camera is going to be pushing in towards Vespigi, and then as he does what he does, it will dissolve into Asher, who of course is the one he's complaining about. So again, Asher's pushing in towards the camera, and then he fades out. Valner's like, but you know, it doesn't make sense. This guy feeds the poor. He's a good guy. Again, Valner's pushing towards the camera, so you get this feeling of this, right? That's really what we're doing here. It just has an effect. Okay, and then Golik is surreptitiously, and we're still pushing in, by the way. Golik is surreptitiously having a little talk with Vespigi. I'm sure I didn't cover this before. Okay, so now this is an interesting shot. I really like this shot. He's talking to him, and then we go to this, from behind them, we see this silhouette with the throne in the center of the screen. What we'll do is, as we're pushing in, the blue will be Valner, and Valner will dissolve in and appear on the throne. So that gives you the sense that the story that he's being pitched by Golik is the idea of him being on the throne instead of his brother. And of course, as we get in close to him, we see that he really likes that idea. Then it goes to black, and then this part's going to be quite interesting to do. Initially, I drew what I thought looked sort of like a horse with somebody, presumably this would be Vespigi, holding up a sword, and over here would be Valner whipping his sword around. Now, this is not an economical sequence to produce by any stretch of the imagination. So what I decided to do is, I didn't really finish out the drawings because I thought, you know what, let's make this into a painting. And so, because there is narration going on over top of it, and what we'll do is we'll go ahead and have these be more painterly still frames, and we'll just dissolve between these more completely rendered paintings. Okay, so there's Valner battling, and you pull out to a wider shot, which obviously this could actually be the same painting. But you pull out, you see some dudes that are sort of attacking him in the foreground, and then you see Valner actually go over the edge of the cliff. And now we have Vespigi on the throne with a very happy Golik in the background. And the narration says, Vespigi was king, but dark, terrible times lay ahead. So essentially, the introduction of the show is done. So everything that I've covered up till now is basically about 2 minutes. It really goes by pretty quickly. It's just narration to set the stage so that we can get into the story, and this is what we're really interested in 15 years later. So as you can see, hopefully, this is a kind of a top view looking down at a bit of a marketplace situation. I'm actually thinking that looks like OpenToonz is thinking. I'm thinking this right here is actually going to be the cabbage wagon that shows up here and there in Avatar: The Last Airbender. I thought it'd be fun to put a little homage in there. So he's passing through, and this is Asher, as you can see now in the earlier shot, and I need to put his cap on him, But in the earlier shot, he had a little bit of hair, so he would have had hair like this. Now he doesn't. So now he's bald, and he's going to have a few more wrinkles. But he's basically got this table where he's setting out these bowls, and you have a bunch of poor people lined up coming and getting soup. Here's the soup cooking. You can see the tent canopies over top of them. And I feel like this shot came out pretty nice, actually. It'll be a fun one to do to finish up. Okay, so the woman, takes her soup. Thank you or bless you, Asher. This is Asher, and actually here again we need to make sure he does need to have his clothes on, although this is sort of a, I don't know what you call it, not a tank top, but he doesn't have any sleeves, so it's a hot day. What can we say? Okay. Now there's plenty for all, and then he looks over, so he's looking this way, but then he kind of goes over here as the woman is sort of moving across the screen this way. Yeah, I have to check it because actually the webcam of me that you're looking at right now is actually reversed, so I appear to be left-handed when in fact I'm right-handed. And the only reason I did that is the software that I was using tends to have dead space in the lower right-hand corner more than the lower left-hand corner. And when the webcam was in the left-hand corner, you might be missing something. So, long time ago, I thought, well, let's just flip it, and that's that. So anyway, he's like, well, where's Melchizedek? So he's sort of peering off in the distance. Where did that boy go? And I'm going to go ahead and just for fun. Look at me making faces. So you can see that Asher now looks older. His beard will be white now instead of dark, and he no longer has hair sticking out under his cap. So that's basically how we're going to sell the idea that he's aged. Okay, so where the heck is Melchizedek? Okay, so now what we do is we're going to cut to a little hut, and this is basically the supply hut, where supplies are kept. And this was actually an interesting challenge where I had to decide, do I want to really do what I see in my head in this case, or do I want to find some way to make it a little more economical? And I decided I'm going to go for it in this case. And this is, in fact, the shot I talked about yesterday on the advanced plastic tool. The idea is that we've got to animate these bowls as Mel is moving around. So what is the actual action? Well, you got the door. It swings open, and he appears out of the darkness inside the hut, and then steps out here. And again, this is going to be a lot of fun to animate. But you can see he's kicking the door shut while he's holding the bowls. And then over here, we're going to get our first glimpse in the lower left-hand corner of Luca and Monkey, who are sort of, they're just seated here alongside the hut, sort of looking on. It would probably be good ultimately to have some sort of perspective context here of the town and some things, back in the background, so that we sense that there's actually, there probably would be a road here, so it's kind of like almost like this hut is on the corner. And I would guess that if you go back that way across a kitty corner situation is probably where the food tent is, where Asher is wondering where Melchizedek went off to. Well, Melchizedek's doing a good thing. He's getting a new supply of bowls. So he kicks the door around and sort of pivots over this way, and then starts walking. Okay? And these guys, as you can see, they're kind of curious. So he comes out, and we're going to have this sort of over-the-shoulder shot where we see Luca and Monkey in the foreground, and then he stops. Say, cool monkey. Oh, he's not. And Luca says, well, he's not really mine. He just sort of follows me around. Huh. But then something gets Mel's attention. And he sees this girl. So this would be Mel in silhouette in the foreground. And he sees this girl approaching this beggar who says, alms for the blind. And the girl actually removes her head covering in slow motion. And says, of course. And that kind of gets Mel's attention. So she squats down, how can I help? And I went ahead and colored this just because I want to make sure, because basically we have a racial mix here. So Luca, I wanted him to be fairly dark skinned, like a more like somebody who's maybe Indian or from Sri Lanka or something. Tianara would be more Greek looking, kind of an olive skin type of deal. And then Mel is more white-ish. So, although I would say probably a little more on the tan side than, say, a Westerner. But that's kind of the gist. That's what I'm thinking. But I do want it to be a bit of a eclectic racial mix. Mainly because I'm thinking downstream, there's probably going to be at least one episode that deals with women's issues, you know, and another that deals with racial issues, you know, and so there could be some sort of discrimination based on color and blah blah blah, and we'll talk about that, right, in the show. So it's cool. So the thing I'm not certain about is the hair. I suspect not. I'm thinking I actually want Luca to be bald for no particular reason. It's just kind of the way I saw him in my head. So, and you notice Monkey here is actually curiously looking over toward Tianara as well. So anyway, the point is that he's watching her. She squats down, and then Luca says, "You like monkeys?" And Mel's, "Huh? Oh yeah, sure." But clearly, what he's more interested in, I said Glockenspiel Pizzicato note because I was actually listening to a TV show score from 1966 by a guy named Walter Schriff that I just thought was beautiful. And if you kind of know how TV show scoring was back in the 60s, it's very it's much like what you would find if you did a Spotify search on, say, British light music. The classical composer that probably comes the closest to what I'm talking about might be Saskatovich. And I was listening to him the other day and actually was shocked. In one piece, I swear I was listening to Alan Menken doing underscore for, say, Hunchback or Aladdin, something like that. Really the classical, or actually romantic era composer I've heard that seems to most capture what you're seeing like in your Disney film type scoring. And basically Alan Menken. I really like Alan Menken's work. I think he's a really talented, super talented guy. Anyway, so his attention's drawn back here. She puts her hand out. She drops some coins in his hand. And then off screen you hear a voice say Tianara, very harshly. And then she turns her head. Mel's like, hmm? So a lot's going by fairly quick here. And that's where we're at. That's where we are at. So, with that, what's actually going to happen... Boy, I'm almost at 20 minutes today already. Okay, what I think I want to see is, first of all, from a camera angle standpoint, I feel like the camera wants to be looking up-ish. Okay. And I think I'll make her... This is actually where not having the pressure sensitivity is going to be a bit of a annoyance. Let's do this. I think that what we're going to do is we're going to have her mother, Carlina, come right into camera, right into a close-up, very, very quickly. So it'd be like, 1/1000. It's going to take about a second and a half for her to go from way out here like this to way up here like this. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and erase that and focus on the close-up, and then I can just shrink it down for the wide shot. I'm completely spitballing here. completely spitballing. I feel like what I want is for the mother to have a more angular face. Angular usually means bad. I mean, we just, not trying to be stereotypical here, but we have strong neural associations with certain shapes in terms of how they affect us emotionally. So it's just, you know, why fight it? Why fight human nature? So mom is not an unattractive woman, but everything is on the angular side. So I'm just gonna, I haven't done any character design on this character, so this is literally real time, just trying something. I'm gonna make sure my lines are kind of so I'm not accidentally drawing it on too much of a slant. Good way to check that is to just flip the screen. And I do think this is not quite right. Actually, I should hit the eraser. And I'm going to actually make this a bit concave instead of convex. Okay. Now this is important. This is she's a very wealthy woman. She lives in the lands to the north where the rain still falls, and so her crops have done well. And so what she does is she comes into this community to sell crops. And I think what I want to do here, now she's going to correct Tianara for taking her head covering off. So therefore, of course, it makes sense that she would have a head covering on. Okay, I feel like it's not quite exaggerated enough. I think I want to take it to a little more extreme. And I also think possibly by having the eyebrows higher, they're a little more wicked looking. Okay. And now let's try this. Yeah, that's pretty snaky. Okay, excuse me. Let me pull back here, and I want to look at one of the earlier shots of Tianara when she had her head covering on. What would the mother do? I wonder if this is definitely bugging me. I don't like this. It looks cheeseball. So this is one of those cases where I'm sitting back here and looking at it, and it is not clear to me what to do. So I'm going to just try a couple things. Normally, one thing that was actually quite helpful with Tianara's headdress was I was looking at Ben-Hur, the old Charlton Heston movie. Great reference for, ancient Middle East clothing, assuming it's accurate. It could be that it's not, of course. So, here's this merchant woman who is hawking her wares and very successful, but she still has to follow the mores of the land, which for her means she keeps her head covering. And, she plays it cool because she wants to be able to continue doing business here, right? Okay, big problem. Right now she looks too kind. So let's just make a few changes. First of all, let's put her nose up higher and see what that feels like. Okay, so now let's try this. What if her eyes were a little more angled in? Let's just keep taking that angle thing to extremes. So we want her to be fairly snaky looking. So what's not working, I think, is the eyebrows. I thought they would work with them up higher. not so much. I want her to definitely look very irritated. Let's just go ahead and flip the screen. Okay, so yeah, there's some stuff here that's a little out of kilter. Little out of kilter, but it's not too bad. Alright, so let's take the angle thing to extremes. Let's take this and let's actually angle her mouth. Okay, that's interesting. Not saying it's great, but it is interesting. Let's just take that line out. Okay. Is she sufficiently snaky, but yet also sufficiently okay looking that we can buy the idea that she's TNR's mother? I don't know. Definitely putting the nostrils up. You know, basically this kind of thing on the nose is, I think, generally less attractive. It'd be sort of a look that you would associate with a, you know, again, talking total stereotypes here, with a super, what am I trying to describe? I'm trying to describe the self-entitled rich girl who has never worked a day in her life, which is not who this woman is, but this is the sort of stereotype I'm thinking of, and who, it's like she's made up in such a way that everyone in the room is going to agree she's attractive, when in their mind they're all thinking she's really not that attractive. Does that make sense? There's a thing to that I've seen in different places over the years, and different, you know, that there's just a look that I'm trying to just describe as best I can. So, and then we'll put a little bit of wrinkle action here, because she's not super-duper young. Okay. So what does she do? She says, oh yeah, okay, so yeah, she's going to come right up there and read TNR the riot act. Okay, so it's, what are, whoa, Dave can't spell today. Cover your head. Boom. There we go. Okay. Cool. I actually think, I don't know that this is quite right, the design. And it is proving to be a bit annoying that my pressure sensitivity appears to have gone the way of the buffalo, but there it is. Okay. Control C. Actually, I don't want to put Mel in there yet. Okay, so this is kind of important, is presumably her line of dialogue is actually going to take place over 2 shots. She's going to say, "What are you doing?" And then I would say, this is one of those choices again where it's like, how hard do I want to work here? I want to do what really feels right. Okay, so here's what feels right. Coming back to this shot again, but I'm thinking I'm going to really do this kind of sketchy here. Okay. Alright. Alright, I'm grabbing her, TNR's shoulder. So this is her, actually her mother's hand. know I'm making faces, guys. I can't help it. Okay. So, there's... Okay, so now I need to figure out what I'm seeing as far as the mother goes. Taking a bit of a stab here. She's a fairly slim woman. I don't think that that looks quite right. I want to push her out a little more. And kind of the idea is that she's reaching. Okay, so I'm not really delineating her costuming right here. I'm really just kind of focusing on the anatomy. And I don't like that at all. What's wrong? It seems like she should be leaning into this, so let's just kill it. Okay, so this is the... I'm drawing these shapes so you can see that we're trying to do a foreshortening thing here. Okay, so there's... you know, and she does have her head covered, and she's also going to be wearing a fairly ornate dress, I would think, because that's just kind of how she rolls. So I'm not going to say I'm being definitive on the costuming here. I'm just going to put like a robe thing around her. Okay, so now, alright, let's save our work. Okay, so what I'm trying to do here is, let's go ahead and hit the D key and make a duplicate. Okay, first of all, actually, let's do this. This whole thing, I think I captured TNR's expression pretty nicely, but the whole thing needs a little bit of room to move. And not only that, but we probably should have the beggar in the foreground. So I'm not going to draw him. I'm just going to indicate. Okay. Alright, so now I'm going to go like this. Control C. Control V, sorry. Okay, so now this allows me to get her stood up. Okay, this is better. This is better. Let's erase this. B. Oops. S key. Boom. Okay, so she's got to be completely changed in her pose. Okay, because the idea is that now she's been kind of forced to her feet. Head's a little bit large. Okay, B key. Okay, yeah, this feels pretty good. Okay, so there's Tianara, blah, 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 blah. And you still see her shoulders kind of like this. She's been jerked up. Like so. Okay, I hope you can see this. I mean, I know it's very sketchy. Boom. Okay, there's her bosom. Okay, let's zip in here and you can better see her expression. Okay, that feels pretty good. Boom, little indication of a nose. And now, of course, she does not have her head covering on. And we'll give a little bit of a indication of the old eyelash action. Okay, can you see that? Boom. Like I said, I know I'm making faces here. No, I'm making faces. Okay. So I'm going to kind of show that she was sort of squatted down on this shot. And I guess her hair would actually still be pulled in because it does go under the garment, right? So okay, I like this shot better than the other one. So I think I want to give her a little bit more skull. And I actually feel like maybe Mom should be slightly bigger on this shot. Okay, so now the concept here is Control C, Control V. Alright, and then I'm going to hit the D key so it's a duplicate. And then what I'm going to do here is just grab this. Just do a slightly different angle here. Okay, so now let's go here. Okay, so what are you doing? We'll just go. By the way, one of the things I've been doing, I've found that in OpenToonz, the erasing has a great deal of flexibility to it. And it actually, I never used to do this, but what I've found myself doing lately is erasing almost 100% of the time with two things. Number one, freehand. So instead of doing regular erasing, like normal erasing like this, I've found it's way more quick and accurate to just do freehand erasing where you draw a lasso. And the other thing is using selective, so that I generally, almost all the time, am only erasing the palette color or brush or whatever that I intended. So therefore, if I hit the eraser right now and go like this, you see it erases the pencil lines, but it doesn't erase the caption. So whatever, it's a thing. Okay, so now this shot actually, Control C, Control V, again, D key, I'm making a duplicate so that I can make a slight change in it. Alright, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go grab all of this, and actually let's grab the hand as well. Okay, slightly smaller, B key. Okay, and let's just erase that. Oops, I don't want it to look like he's leaning so much as. Actually, I think I do. Let's play with this. I think I do want him leaning, but he's got to offset his weight. Yeah, so the idea is he's going, Alright, so his expression's obviously all wrong. Boom. Okay, so that's just Mel reacting to what he sees. This is going to be just notably her hair is dark. Okay, let's go back and look. So Tianara. What? Okay, so we have a missing shot, obviously. So let's stretch this out, make a duplicate, and then this shot, we'll get rid of the caption completely, and then what we're going to do is grab mom, and you'll see this is where we're starting from. I don't want to be too wide of a shot. Basically, this is where I am going to economize. Is I don't want to have to draw, whoops, the walk cycle, a proper walk cycle. What I want to do is simply essentially, if I show it like this, I'm just going to kind of do this, okay, when I animate it. Probably just use the animate tool. I should be able to okay, so again, one thing I'm not going to do right now, because this is one of those things that I probably need to like sit and think about and not really do on YouTube, is really think about her costuming. Because we've got to convey, again, that she's adhering to the mores, but she needs to look rich. So, you know, for as an example, perhaps she should have a gaudy necklace sticking out, you know, conspicuously, that type of thing. So, whoops. And I think maybe I'm just gonna go with this for the moment, but I'm thinking maybe this will be actually her pose. So what's gonna really happen is you're gonna hear Tianara, quick reaction, Mel's like, and then she is gonna bounce, bounce, bounce up to the screen. I don't need to worry about drawing her arms properly right now. That is essentially a complete waste of time because I know I'm gonna be able to nail that. What are you doing? And by the way, she'll probably be saying this as she's walking. Okay? So it really would be, what are you doing? Alright? Reaches down very briskly. So let's have some indication of her actually bending down and jerking Tianara up. Cover your head. And Mel's like, jeez, she's a tough cookie. Okay, I think that's it for now. This is going to be a good wrap to the session. Looks like the postman just dropped the post, and I'm going to go ahead and probably walk around the neighborhood. Let's take a break. I feel like we're making very good progress on this storyboard. Let's just kind of take one last look from here. I'm loving the idea of putting the cabbage card in there. Just a little homage to Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is clearly one of the influences. It's not really the primary influence that's driving the aesthetic of the show. I think it's going to probably wind up being a little more similar to Del Toro Quest in terms of animation and movement. Honestly, kind of leaning more towards Disney when it comes to actual character design, I guess, I have to admit. I think. You know, I always am hesitant to say things like that because it sounds like I'm like comparing myself to those guys or suggesting that I can do as good a job as those guys, and I'm not really saying that at all. I'm just saying it's kind of what I'm looking for. I mean, I think when I look at Mel, I like what I see. I mean, I think he's a pretty high appeal character. this guy's design would be definitely a little more similar to a minor character you might see in an episode of The Last Airbender. I don't know where TNR comes from. I just once I figured out how to draw her, I thought she was just beautiful. I mean, just a gorgeous girl. You know, I just liked her look. So does Mel. Right? So I like the way Luke is turning out as well. I also like the range of expressions I'm seeing on Mel. I do like the range. From here to here, obviously we sort of have to make a choice. Is this the right look or is this the right look? Probably this is. Doesn't matter, you know. Obviously once he turns his head, you're going to draw the eyes only once anyway, so I love that look. The eyes here, I'll tell you what I would relate it to is in anime, if you look at, I can't remember if they did this in like maybe Devil is a Part-Timer, not sure. Definitely Miss Kobayashi in Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. I really like the way they did her eyes. It's a really economical way to do eyes, actually, because a lot of anime, they've got these eyes that look like a painting. It's ridiculous the amount of detail they put into eyes, and I see why they do it, because they can create an asset and to a large extent just drag and drop it into shots of the character. I tend to prefer something like this. This is a great example of, Miss Kobayashi's eyes are very much like that, and it lends itself well to like a deadpan expression, which you do see fairly frequently with Mel and some other characters, obviously, as well. This, I think, came out really well. If there's anything in this video I'm making right now what I would consider a good success, it would be the expression on TNR's face and her getting jerked up like that. I think I pretty well nailed that. And Mel doesn't particularly like what he sees, but that's that. And I think that's it, guys. So with that, I will wrap it up. And as you guys know, there will be more later, because there always is.